Welcome to Satsang. What a blessing to be together. We start Satsang always with a question that comes in advance from our family joining us from all over the world. And then we open it up to any questions that anyone here might have. There's a microphone right there. So feel free, don't be shy. And you can come up and ask your question, share your name, share where you're from, and then share the question. But starting always with one in advance. And remember, as we always emphasize, that there's no such thing as a wrong question or a silly question or a stupid question or, too small of a question. The key is, if it's something that is standing between you and truth, between you and freedom, it's exactly the right question. One of the really interesting tragedies of our human existence is it's not the big things that stand between us and freedom. It tends to be the little things. That which disturbs us, that which keeps us stuck, tends to be, in most cases, things that seem small to us, things that seem not important. So, if it's important to you, and if having an answer would bring you greater freedom, bring you closer to the truth of who you are, then it's exactly the right question. What is the real way of having a happy marriage? This is asked by our sister Ordvi. So, a happy marriage actually is the same recipe for a happy relationship with anyone, including a happy relationship with yourself. The more we get stuck in grudges, anger, judgment, attachments, the less happy we're going to be. And whether it's a spouse, whether it's a colleague, whether it's a neighbor, or whether it's yourself. The more we are fixated on what's wrong, the less happy we're going to be. Now, in a marriage, compared to, for example, with your employee at the office or, somebody checking you out at the grocery store or mowing your lawn or parking your car or somebody in a service class, the difference is the spouse will usually get angry back. And so rather than just what happens when we treat ourselves like that, or if we treat an employee like that, in a marriage situation, you then end up with it coming from both sides. So it just makes the fire bigger. But the core problem is exactly the same. And it all has to do with priorities. What is my priority? Is my priority to be in love and to be in peace and to be happy? Or is my priority to get everything exactly the way that I want it? Am I so attached to things being my way? I cannot tell you the number of people I have seen fight over the right way to load a dishwasher or the right way that a cupboard like, really? Like it matters? It matters that much? The right way that things should be arranged around you. Issues of curtains, issues of drapes, opened, closed. I mean, just these are the things. Temperature, that the air conditioner, the heater, the windows open, the windows closed. Like this is the stuff that we fight over. And this is the stuff then that breaks us. You know, one of the stories that I share really frequently, but it bears repeating, is my dad is a divorce attorney and is now 79. So he has spent more than 50 years getting people divorced. And next to my guru, he is just the most wonderful man on earth and is so calm and peaceful and loving, and I mean, he's just an amazing guy. And one of the teachings that he gives to anybody getting married or anybody who's come to him for, advice is you've only got two options in your married life. You can either be right or you can be married. You can't be both. Now, in India, where divorce is still a bit of a taboo and lots of people do stay married even though they're miserable, I would change it and say two choices between being right or being happily married. Because you may stay married but be miserable. Whereas in the West, people are much more likely to just get a divorce and be done with it. But those are the options. You can be right or you can be happy. And so many of us are so attached to being right that we give up being happy. The other thing that he says is, tell me, and he says this usually from one man to another man, but it could go either way. He says, tell me, what exactly do you win when you win an argument with your wife? It's like, you win a night on the couch. You win the silent treatment. You went like, okay, so you proved that you were right, and now what? What have you achieved? Where have you gotten? You're miserable. And so the secret to a happy married life is the same as the secret to a happy life in general, which is really ask yourself, what are my priorities? What is my highest goal here? Who cares if he or she knows that I'm right? Doesn't it matter so much more that we're living in love? Doesn't it matter so much more that we're in peace than that I have proven, why Mexican food is actually a better option than Chinese food or Italian food? But that's where we lose ourselves. So number one is really focus on your priorities. What is your highest goal here? Number two is a beautiful teaching that goes anywhere, and I actually feel like I just shared it in a different context here, certainly within the last week. But again, it bears repeating because audiences are brand new every night, which is a teaching from the Bhagavad Gita in which Bhagavan Krishna says that the right speech, tapas of speech, is that which is true, non-negotiable, it has to be true, but it also has to be kind and it has to be beneficial. A lot of us say things that are hurtful under the guise of, well, but it's true. Like I had to say it because it's true. Well, no, just because it's true doesn't mean you had to say it. If it isn't kind and it isn't beneficial, you don't have to say it. And a fourth thing to add that in the Buddhist traditions they speak about a lot, which is, does it improve upon the silence? So when you're there with your spouse and you're bubbling, like you just have to tell him or her this thing that they did that's wrong or that you're angry about it, really ask yourself, in addition to being true, Is it kind to them, to our marriage, to my spiritual practice? Is it beneficial to whatever my highest goal is? And does it improve upon the silence? Are we better off if I open my mouth and say this, or are we better off to just... So that's the second piece, is really watch what you say. And the third piece, there's a lot of pieces, but I'll end with the third piece, is really allow your compassion and allow your love and allow your connection to be as unconditional as possible. Now, I know that's hard. I know it's hard. I mean, we want so much from everyone in the world, especially from a spouse, especially when we feel like they should be not only the spouse, but the best friend and the therapist and the cook or the cleaner or the this or the that. There's so many other agendas that we have. But ask yourself, is it their body I love or their essence? And really ask yourself that very clearly, because if it's just the body, then what you've got going is lust, not love. Lust isn't only sexual desire. It's that attraction to, attachment to, love of just the physical body and like what it's going to give me. So sexual pleasure, yes, but any other things as well. So any attachment just to the body, what it looks like, how it acts, what it does, what it says, how it treats me. This is also lust, if it's just the body. But when you really love, what you love is essence. You love soul, you love content, not just form. And so if you find yourself getting annoyed, frustrated, unfulfilled expectations, etc., shift your focus from form to content. Okay, their actions, their words are really, really bothering me right now. Can I shift? Can I drop from the level of form to the level of content? Can I love the soul of them, the essence of them, even though the sounds their mouth is making are really bothering me? Can I shift to essence, to the content? Can I see soul in them? There's a reason that in our tradition we say grest ashram or grest dharm. That householder time of your life is seen as an ashram. It is seen as a dharma. It's not just something to be like niptana. It's not just, get through it, finish it, be done. It's really meant to be that through which you walk closer and closer to the divine on your spiritual path. And so allow it to be that. Nobody ever said it was going to be easy. Look at the Mahabharata, look at the Ramayana. These are incredible stories of challenge, of struggle. Nobody ever said a spiritual practice was going to be easy. And if you can see your marriage as a spiritual practice, something that's taking you deeper emotionally, so yeah, it's going to push your buttons. You can be sure that whatever buttons you have, your marriage is going to push it. But use it. Use it as a way of going deeper emotionally, psychologically, getting free, and use it as a spiritual path. How can you see soul, divinity, essence in your spouse? Not just the form of the being who is or is not doing what you want. And then not only is your marriage going to be so much better, but your whole mind, your heart, your life is going to be so much better. Because through that, you become clear. You become so clear. So, yeah, beautiful, beautiful question. And again, as I began, It's not only our marriages. This is true in friendships. This is true in colleagues. This is true in any relationship you have. Great. Other questions? Yes, of course. Please come. Just come to the microphone here.
Thank you for taking my question. I'm Hina, I'm from US. My question is, how do you continue your spiritual practice when there's so much pain and suffering going on around the world, especially in places like Gaza, even within US, what's happening currently?
Very familiar.
It's just
Sadly.
hard.
Yes.
Because you can ignore or just, turn your face away from what's going on in the world.
Yeah, great question. So, how do we continue on our spiritual path when there's so much awfulness going on in the world? That's the time that our spiritual practice is most critical. Most critical. There's a beautiful line toward the end of the Mahabharata, after the war, when Bhagwan Krishna says to Kunti, "Ask anything of me. I want to give you some boon, some blessing. You've lost so much. You've suffered so much through this war. And through it all, you've been this embodiment of grace, of beauty, divinity, perseverance. Ask anything. Let me give you some boon." And she says, lifetime after lifetime, give me suffering. She says, because I've noticed that when everything was going really well, I tended to forget you. It seemed like you were really far away. But when things were really bad, that's when I remembered you the most. That's when it seemed like you were the closest. So our spiritual practice is that which is actually meant to, obviously at the highest level, it's meant to unite us with the divine. But as a practice, it is that which is meant to pull us through the hardest times of our life. It's not just, everything is going great and I have, so much free time and so much spaciousness of heart and mind. Cello, let me meditate. We meditate at those times to develop a practice so that when things are going bad, so that when we are full of anger and pain and fear and grief, we have a practice into which we can drop. Because here's the thing. You being miserable, you being unable to sleep properly, unable to eat properly, unable to calm yourself and be present, isn't actually going to do anything for anyone who's suffering in Gaza, in Ukraine, in Sudan, in anywhere in the world. You anchoring in spiritual practice is, number one, going to connect you with them on the deepest level. So actually you will be so much more powerful because that separation will disappear. It brings you into that deep union and awareness of not being separate. So it opens up your compassion. But what it also does is it grounds you and it anchors you in a bigger picture as well, that's able to give us some perspective so that we can actually put one foot in front of the other and make it through the day. And because of that, then we actually become efficient and effective instruments of change. Should you be angry? Absolutely. Should you be distressed? Absolutely. But should you be so angry and so distressed that not only are you suffering, but that you are absolutely rendered useless and incapable of bringing any healing to the situation. That doesn't serve anyone. Our spiritual practice actually teaches us, shows us how to be channels of the divine flow. It's why if you look at history, look at the most powerful historical revolutionary change makers, from Mahatma Gandhi to Nelson Mandela to Martin Luther King. What are similarities? And of course there's many more, but just one of the similarities you're going to find in every single one of them, they are deeply spiritual people. Because to sustain the level of energy that is required to truly bring about change in the world requires anchoring in something other than the energy that you get from your Cheerios in the morning. It's got to be anchored in something more than the energy of rage. Rage is fantastic as an immediate catalyst. Think of like a rocket ship. Rage is the fire that gets it off the ground, but it burns very, very quickly. It'll sustain you a couple of hours, maybe a couple days, depending on what it is, maybe a couple weeks at most. But it's not going to sustain you in the long run. The energy that's going to sustain you, if you're really looking to be part of a solution, has to be a spiritual energy. And so allow your spiritual practice to be that which you do for them, so that you can actually be useful to them. I'll tell you a personal story. Some of you may have heard it before, but it's one of my favorite true personal stories of this teaching. When I first came to India, I had been here less than a year, and Pujya Swamiji took me to see these schools in this big slum area outside of Delhi. It was 10, 11 impoverished schools, and they were being run by a trust that had run out of money. And they had come to Pujya Swamiji saying, can you adopt these schools? Kids come every day, teachers come, but we have no more money to run it. So Swamiji said to me, do you want to go and see these schools? Because I have to go and see them. I said, sure. We spent the day at these schools, these slums, that I had never even seen anything like that in a movie. But it was that level of awfulness. We got back at the end of the day, and I'm sobbing. I'm just sobbing and sobbing and sobbing and sobbing from what I have seen. Just kids, thousands and thousands and thousands, and nobody has shelter, and nobody has food, and it was just... And we get back to where we're staying in Delhi, and I'm sobbing, and it's dinner time, and I say, I can't eat dinner. And Swamiji says to me, you got to eat dinner. And I said, I can't eat dinner. Oh my God, those poor kids, and how can I eat dinner? And he says to me very matter-of-factly, he says, is that helping them? Is any child actually benefiting because you can't eat dinner? It's not like the cook is going to, wrap up your one bowl of whatever the vegetable was and, drive it hours out there to feed to one of the thousands of kids who doesn't have food. So is it actually helping anybody? He said, if you really want to help them, instead of just have an ego that feels good about itself because you're so compassionate that you can't eat dinner, he said, eat your dinner, go to sleep early, and get up at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning and figure out how you're going to raise the money to sponsor all these schools. And it was a very powerful lesson, because what I realized was that, the pain was real. But it was reality mixed up also with an ego sense of like, aren't I a great person for being so distressed by this poverty? And aren't all these other people so callous at how they're able to just like go on about their normal lives when, oh my God, these kids are suffering? And if I was really honest, there was definitely ego wrapped up in that, even though there was also real pain for those kids, real empathetic suffering and sadness. But that didn't help them. My empathy didn't help them. My sadness didn't help them. The only thing that actually was going to help them was if I could ground and anchor myself enough to get my head straight on to actually figure out how to raise the money to sponsor it. So whatever the problem in the world that is grabbing your heart, allow it to grab you. Don't disconnect yourself from it, because they are you, they are us. And once you've allowed it to touch you, ask yourself actually how you can be an instrument of change. Because the highest goal is not just for you to feel miserable along with them. The highest goal is for you, catalyzed by the misery, to actually become an instrument of change. Beautiful. Yeah. Other questions? Yes.
I am Puneet from Delhi. In this world which is...
Can you come just a little closer so that you can...
Yeah.
Thank you, perfect.
Yeah. In this world, we are highly distracted. It's, as they say, it's a materialistic world, right? So, and you have career aspirations.
I'm so sorry, I'm having difficulty hearing. Yeah, perfect.
Okay. So, in this world, there are so many distractions.
Yes.
It is a materialistic world, as they say in Bhagavad Gita. Now, how do you, and of course, there are other aspects of life, which is career aspirations. You have your children, you have to upbring them, you need money, you want a status. Now, how do you, prioritize the soul, rising the soul?
Great.
Yeah.
So in the midst of all of these distractions and all of these competing desires, how do we prioritize our soul, spiritual practice, over money and power and nice things and, family issues and work and whatnot? It depends what your ultimate highest goal of life is. I can only prioritize my day if I know what my ultimate goal is. If my ultimate goal at the end of the day is to simply look as beautiful as possible, well then, how are you going to fix the day? You're going to go to the spa. You're going to get your beauty sleep. You're going to have a scrub. You're going to get your hair done. That's how you're going to make your day, based on what your ultimate highest goal is. If your highest goal at the end of the day is to have made a bunch of money, you're going to get up early. You're going to go into whichever office or work or place that you think you're going to get the most money. Maybe you're even going to steal it. Depending on what your values and ethics are. If that's your highest goal, then you're going to figure out between now and this evening, what do I have to do to put the maximum amount of money in my pocket? When you ask about prioritizing all the competing aspects of our life, you can only do that once you know what is your ultimate goal. If the ultimate goal is just have a nice life, good family, nice friends, have people respect you, be kind of high on a social ladder, make the neighbors a little bit jealous, have a bunch of nice things, have some power so that people respect you, and also, maybe have a little spirituality on the side, well, then you're going to prioritize your day in a different way. But here's what I would suggest. What we know it from the scriptures, we know it from the spiritual teachers, is that the ultimate reason that we have taken a human birth is actually to experience the divine within us. That is what you could call universal dharma. It is why every single one of us is here. No matter what other roles have been given to us, what other responsibilities have been given to us, our highest goal is to wake up into the truth of who we are. Now, that is done, as the Bhagavad Gita makes very clear, through doing your duty. It's not, my highest goal is to wake up, therefore I'm going to abandon my family, abandon my responsibilities, and just meditate all day long. That's going to be detrimental, because those duties are also dharma, and if I don't fulfill them, I'm hampering my own spiritual practice. But what it means is that my spiritual practice weaves through everything I do. Go to the office. Do your job. Be with your family. Be with your friends. But allow your spiritual truth to weave through everything that you do. Carry that awareness of soul wherever you go. There's no rule that says just because you're soul, you can never enjoy a joke. Or just because you're soul, you should never sit in a movie theater. Or just because you're soul, you should never have nice clothes. But it means even in the movie theater, even listening to the joke, even wearing the nice clothes, remember that the truth of who you are is soul, and the truth of the being in front of you, behind you, next to you is also soul. So what'll happen is you'll do all of your duties, but you won't get so distracted, because the mind and the awareness and the attention and the focus stays on remembrance. So you may be in a department store shopping, but you're going to be anchored in the awareness that you are the one aware that the body is shopping. You may be a lawyer standing in a courtroom, barreling down in a cross-examination. But even while you're doing that, you are anchored in the awareness that you are the one aware that cross-examination is happening through this body, but that it's not you. You are the one who's aware. You're that light of awareness. And so there isn't the stuckness. There's not the attachment. There's not the identification. We identify not as the role, not as the one who's winning or losing, succeeding or failing, but we identify as soul, as consciousness, playing a role in this world, playing it well, playing it with joy, with love, with sincerity, with fullness, as we are called upon to do, but without forgetting who you are. So do all of the roles, but do try not to let yourself get distracted, because the problem is distraction pulls us out of awareness all the time. You're focused on something, and then you get distracted. Distracted, the definition of distracted is no longer focused. Try not to be distracted. Do lots of things, have lots of different aspects of your life. But try to be present with each of them when you are with them, when you are with the family. Don't be thinking about the office. Don't be thinking about the bank account. Don't be thinking about your social media account. Be with the ones you love. When you're working on a project at the office, be fully there. And through it all, allow that light of awareness to be your highest identity. Whether you're being the husband, the father, the best friend, the CEO, the secretary, the rich one, the poor one. Ultimately, what you are is the light of awareness. Great. Beautiful. Yeah, last question. Namaste.
Madam, I am Vinay Nama, and this question is connected to my profession basically. I am a chief of anti-corruption, one of the anti-corruption wing of Indian government. And whenever I conclude any file or when I study the profile of any person, I always see a dream that I am missing a train.
I'm sorry, you always see?
When I conclude any file, any case, I always dream that I am missing a train. How does dream correlate with sleeping? This is my simple question.
I am so sorry. For some reason,
How does dream correlate with sleeping?
How does dream correlate with sleeping? Thank you. On a neurological level, we have 3 stages of sleep. Light sleep, deep sleep, REM sleep. REM sleep is when we dream. On a physical level, our physical body, all of the systems of our body, digestion, reproduction, immunity, circulation, all of that, all the healing that takes place in our body, takes place mostly during deep sleep. REM, which stands for rapid eye movement, is our dream sleep. It correlates with sleeping only in that it takes place while we sleep. But here's what's interesting. It's not restorative sleep. Deep sleep is restorative sleep. Now, when we sleep, we have approximately 90-minute cycles through which we cycle through deep sleep, light sleep, REM sleep. That's an approximate, very general amount of minutes in each sleep cycle, and then we go again. However, the earlier in the night you go to sleep, the more deep sleep you get. REM sleep is much more in the morning hours. Now, this is true regardless of what time you went to sleep. So that's why on a physical level, but also on a spiritual level, it's better to go to sleep early. The earlier you go to sleep, the more actual restoration the body is getting, and you're kind of wasting less time in dreams. If you've ever had a situation where you go to bed really, really late, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, you're kind of up all night, then even you get 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep, you're not rested. And you may notice that you saw lots and lots of dreams. And it's because you don't get deep sleep at that hour of the day. Because we also operate in what's called a circadian rhythm, which is a 24-hour cycle with the sun, that our bodies are aligned with. Regardless of whether our lifestyles are aligned with it, our bodies are aligned with it. And so the aim is sleep as early as you can, get as much restorative sleep as possible. Don't waste too much time in dreams. There's a lot of different arguments around the benefit of dream sleep. What I can tell you is that most of the spiritual masters I have had the benefit of meeting will tell you that they dream very rarely, very, very rarely, and that most of their sleep is this deep sleep or light sleep, but that it's not dreams. In the world of psychology, there's, again, a lot of arguments around Are there important signs? Are we getting signals? Are these teachings, are these aspects of our subconscious, our unconscious that are coming up that we should really pay a lot of attention to and dive deep into it? And for me, I'm all for insight. Whatever path you want to use to understand yourself better, fantastic. So if you happen to be somebody who remembers all your dreams and you can use your dreams to dive into your subconscious and you find it beneficial, great. But there's also a lot of evidence as well saying that it's not quite like that, and that really what it is it's a time in which our brains are literally filtering stuff out. We take in way more than our memories can hold on to during any day. I forget the statistic, but I was reading it recently. It spoke about the amount of data that the average human takes in the course of a day is hundreds of times more than the average human took in during the course of their entire lifetimes about 100 years ago. So, I mean, it's gotten to like that level. But even in those days, the simple amount of stimuli that we take in, the sights, the sounds, I mean, even just for a moment, here we are in this room. Your attention may hopefully be focused on me, but your brain is taking in so much information. Visual information, auditory information, smell, if suddenly you started smelling smoke, there's a part of your brain that's always alert to something like that. Movement, should the ground start to shake. Our brain is taking in so much. We've got to be able to filter it out. There's neurological diseases that are anchored in the inability to filter things out. So there's also research and evidence showing that during REM sleep, we are actually filtering. It's basically nonsense in the mind as the brain filters stuff out, which is why you so frequently tend to see in dreams things that are familiar. People you're seeing, places, things that are familiar are going to show up in your dreams. The brain is just literally like going through a car wash. But either way you think about it, what I always think is, if by paying attention to them, you benefit on a personal level of insight, if you feel that there is something beneficial that you're gaining, by all means pay attention to it. But do try to make sure to sleep as early as you can, even though you'll have fewer dreams, because it's so much better for the body and for the mind. But lastly, last point. Regardless of what time you went to bed, regardless of when you wake up, regardless of what you think about your dreams, useless, useful, the moment we wake up, we realize I was just dreaming. A nightmare, a beautiful dream, whatever it was, every aspect of it, no matter how specific it was, it's gone. In my dream, I get on an airplane and, I go off to Paris and I sit on the Champs-Élysées and I have a cappuccino and I'm, watching the boats on the Seine and I'm practicing my French. It's so vivid. You can smell the croissants, you can smell the coffee, you can see the people, you can feel the breeze. The minute you wake up, you realize, oh, that was just a dream. Now, what does that mean it was just a dream? It means I created it all. The entire drama. That cappuccino didn't exist. None of it existed. My brain created it. Every morning when we wake up and we realize, oh, I was only dreaming, Allow that to be a kickstart catalyst for you of realizing, oh, so is all of this my own creation. So is this a dream. That's what the saints and the sages mean when they say this is a dream. Not it's an optical illusion, not it's totally fake, but meaning it is happening within you. There is no other, there is no objective reality out there. The moment you wake up from this dream, you'll have the same experience that you have the moment we wake up in bed of, oh, I just created that whole thing. It all is happening in me. Yeah, beautiful. Have a beautiful rest of your evenings. A beautiful morning and day to our family joining all over the world. And